Welcome to the Colleges Wales Teach Pod podcast series. Supported by Welsh Government, these 10-minute sessions offer further education lecturers and work-based learning practitioners practical learning and teaching tips. With contributions from colleges from across Wales, the series offers professional learning opportunities for staff in the FE sector to hear about examples of best practice. There are 4 key themes: resilience, digital, differentiation and A-level pedagogy. For further information, please visit colleges.wales.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our podcast focusing on A-level pedagogy, and more specifically, the OOOO factor model and its benefits for A-level learners. My name is Chris Ford, Director of Learning at the College Merthyr Tydfil, and I will be your host for the next 10 minutes. I would like to introduce our guest today, Kaylee Adlam, who is the Performing Arts Coordinator at the college and who teaches both AS and A2 drama. Welcome, Kaylee.
Hello.
Now, I suppose the sensible place to start would be, what is the OOOO model? Could you provide a brief overview for our listeners?
So the OOOO model provides learners with the confidence to tell their own stories with assurance and ownership. It allows them to face challenges within a range of different settings, so that could be personal, practical or academic. Learners set themselves goals, which is the objective, the first O. They identify an obstacle that might initially stop them from achieving that goal. However, then they identify an opportunity that helps them to overcome it. So looking at alternative solutions, and then from there they distinguish the outcome of their goal. So these factors are personal to each learner, which allows them to build confidence and resilience in their decision making, and whilst enabling them to form new skill sets. So it can be used for future decision making, such as completing applications for jobs or higher education, but it can also be used as a self-assessment tool.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's a really detailed overview there. But what is the overall purpose of the model?
I think learners are not always good at expressing themselves in a positive light. I think they find it quite easy to list the negatives. But they can sometimes feel embarrassed when they're asked to note their achievements or what they're good at. So the OOOO model provides them with the framework and some guidelines that support their goals and achievements. So that changes their mindset on how they express outcomes positively. Okay,
that's great, thanks. So how have you used the OOOO model within your own teaching delivery?
So I've recently used it on a practical project with my AS drama learners. Their initial objective was to create a piece of theatre to perform in front of a live audience, but obviously due to the circumstances, our objective drastically changed. So our objective was then to create a piece of digital theatre. The obstacle initially felt quite stressful, as this was a completely new way of working for all of us. But within their groups and within the framework that they were providing for themselves, I started to see them flourish in ways that a normal way of working then wouldn't have allowed. They identified opportunities that allowed them to rehearse effectively. They developed a completely new skill set. And this is something that they've recently expressed that is really supporting them in their learning at the moment and for future projects. So the outcome was much better than we all imagined. We got to showcase their work online, attracted quite a large audience, and the feedback that they received after it gave them a huge boost. But I believe that the framework, the OOOO model, allowed them to stay on track. They always kept in mind what they were working towards.
Well, it sounds as if it's been really useful in that process. And as you said, working in really difficult conditions at the moment and having to change decisions really quickly in response to sort of guidelines from awarding bodies and obviously COVID related guidelines. And obviously I saw the outcome of that particular project, and the work that the learners did was absolutely superb. So it's worked in that sort of practical context. How do you intend using the model with learners in future? What other benefits could it potentially have?
So I'm currently embedding it into theory sessions with the same group, but I'm looking at it on a smaller scale, on a session by session basis. This is allowing them to see where they have gaps in their learning. They, even in group tasks, they are using it more effectively, as usually when you set them in a group task, they all seem to just focus on the same thing, but because they identify where they need to research a little bit further, they are taking the ownership and going, I'll research this, I'll research that, because that's what I need to focus on to develop further. And it's just giving them a clearer idea of going into the session of what they need to focus on, how can they build their knowledge on certain topics that they don't feel as confident with.
Okay, great. And I mean, you've already found it very useful, but what do the learners think about it? Have they provided any feedback on the model itself and how it's helped them?
Yeah, so they've found it to be really positive, and I think that they find that they are structuring the session for themselves a lot better as well. They've expressed that it gives them a structure which has made them determined to follow and carry out the tasks that they've set out to do. So it's given them really clear goals, and they're really determined to meet them. And they also feel is consistently allowing them to gain knowledge, and how they see obstacles as a positive factor within their journey rather than something that stops them in their tracks. So that's something that I found really useful, is that they're not seeing the obstacles as something that's really detrimental to their learning. It's something that's challenging them.
And something for them to overcome.
Yeah.
No, that's great. So obviously you're using it within an A-level drama context, and you've discussed the benefits of it certainly in practical projects. How could this be used outside of A-level drama with other A-level subjects?
I think it could be used as a tool to build confidence and positivity towards themselves for future job opportunities or higher education applications, for example. Within an interview setting, it gives them a firm framework to follow when sharing the stories of when they've overcome hardship, tricky moments, and where they've faced challenges within a number of different contexts. So the framework allows them to sort of work through that, whether they feel on the spot or not. It's just giving them something to support them.
Okay, brilliant. And I suppose then, just to sort of round things off, you've given quite a lot of detail here about how promising this model is for a number of different reasons. What top tips could you possibly offer to those new to the model and how they could utilize it in their own settings?
Have confidence really in adapting the model to how you see fit. As you can tell from the discussion that we've just had, it can be used on larger projects and on an individual basis. I also believe it could work really well within a tutorial setting to allow for personal growth targets to be set and not just basing it around a grade outcome. I think that's sort of the emphasis. But I think if we develop it in a personal sense, I think it gives the learners more confidence there. And then lastly, I think the learners can be involved in deciding on how the model is used. They may have suggestions of how to use it that maybe you haven't thought of. And again, this gives them the confidence in decision making, and it liberates them as young people.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you very much, Katie, for discussing the OOOO model with us today. I think you've been really clear that as a resource, it could be incredibly useful in building confidence and resilience in our young people. as well as operating as an effective self-assessment tool that you've discussed quite widely in relation to some of their A-level drama projects. The model was originally created by Dr. Leslie Taylor, who we've had the pleasure of working with over recent years. So for further information on the OOOO model, please explore her website at drleslietaylor.com. Resources will also be available on the Colegau Cymru website.
With contributions from FE professionals from across Wales, the Colleges Wales Teach Pod podcast series offers a series of short teaching and learning tips, which you can put into practice straight away. The range of podcasts is broad, with sessions covering the themes of resilience, digital, differentiation, and A-level pedagogy. Find out more today.